The Cold War started at the end of World War II and lasted until the dissolution of the Soviet Union on December 26, 1991. It was a continuous rivalry between two former World War II allies, the USA and the Soviet Union. After World War II, the Allies divided control over Germany. The western side became West Germany and the eastern side became East Germany, which became a communist country. There was never a real war. Both sides were involved in other conflicts in the world to either stop the spread of communism or to help spread it. The United States was a capitalist democracy where the American people valued freedom and individual rights. The Soviet Union was a dictatorship where Stalin and the Communist Party willed total control over the lives of the Soviet people. The Berlin Wall symbolized the Cold War's division from East Germany to West Germany. Starting on August 13, 1961, it completely cut off West Berlin from surrounding East Germany and from East Berlin. Lots of people wanted to leave East Berlin because there wasn't lots of money and good food. Around 5,000 people tried to escape, and with a death toll of 600. The wall was torn down on December of 1989, and this event marked the symbolic end of the Cold War. Iron Curtain is a term popularized by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill to describe the Soviet Union's policy of isolation during the Cold War. It was delivered at Fulton, Missouri on March 5, 1946. Truman invited Churchill to speak to the American people to get them to realize that their country has to stand up to communism. Churchill was alarmed by the Soviet takeover of Eastern Europe and was worried that Stalin would try and take over the rest of Europe and spread the idea of communism. The Korean War was from 1950 to 1953, which resulted from Cold War tensions between the East and West. President Truman established the Truman Doctrine, which stated that the United States would come to the aid of any country threatened by communism. It began when Communist North Korea invaded South Korea across the 38th parallel. Truman believed that if one country fell into communism, then others would follow, like a line of dominoes. He was worried that if Korea fell, the communists would capture Japan. MacArthur was the leader of U.S. forces in Korea. He wanted to extend the war in China with nuclear weapons. He got fired by Truman because General MacArthur believed that the United States could win the Korean War if it invaded China, but Truman felt that attacking them would only lead to another war, and warned MacArthur against making any further inflammatory statements. With the rising conflicts and tension against the U.S. and USSR, it was believed that something else may rise from it all. There was a chance that nuclear war could become a reality. The citizens were alarmed most of the time since it could happen at any moment. Although it was never known who could possibly start the first attack, people just suspected that one side would eventually start using nuclear weapons. But nothing ever happened for the longest time, yet the tension was still there. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a time when nuclear missiles were being built on the island of Cuba by the Soviet Union. They were spotted by the U.S. on October 14, 1962, while President Kennedy was told about them on the 16th. A group of advisors and officials called an exclusive conference, also known as XCOM, to discuss how to deal with the situation. There was a possibility that the U.S. would be harmed since the missiles were being built 90 miles away from Florida. Eventually, on October 22nd, a television broadcast was shown to the public to inform them about the issue. The U.S. then sent troops in order to make a blockade to stop the Soviet Union from sending more equipment. After some time, the USSR then compromised a plan with the U.S. where they would dismantle the nuclear weapons if the U.S. does not invade Cuba. The U.S. also said they would also dismantle their bombs in Turkey, and the crisis was settled without anyone being harmed. For some time, Vietnam has had problems with each other before 1955. This caused there to be a split between the North and the South, since the North believed in communism, but the South did not. War arose from these opposing views between both sides. The U.S. believed that if the North continued with these ideals, it was possible for communism could spread into the surrounding areas. Therefore, the U.S. joined the South in the war. But those back at home felt it was not right for troops to die in the war. A peace movement was made with many joining, eventually making it popular. Then one day, 4 students were killed during a protest, causing the government to seem as if they were against the people. There would soon be many people that were protesting against the war as they found it unreasonable for soldiers to fight only to die. The U.S. was not only fighting a war in Vietnam, but they were also fighting a war against their people. Eventually, the U.S. withdrew from the war since the people were not happy with them. Once they returned, their total death count would add up to about 60,000 troops. They also came back with 150,000 injured soldiers. Meanwhile, North Vietnam was left with 500,000 dead. It is also believed that there was a total of 3 million casualties of civilians and troops together. In the end, the U.S. involvement in the war was seen as a political disaster at home and overseas. Richard Nixon became president in 1913 and began taking action to settle down the Cold War by using diplomacy instead of military action. A realization was established in 1972 to calm things down. The SALT I, or Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, was signed in 1972 in order to stop the creation of nuclear weapons, to make sure nuclear war does not occur. Since Nixon saw communism as a bad thing, he gave financial and military aid to anti-communist governments. Meanwhile, Mikhail Gorbachev wanted to change the way people see communism, so he added 2 new policies: Glasnost and Perestroika, meaning political openness and economic reform. The Berlin Wall was then destroyed in November 1989, eventually causing the Soviet Union to fall in 1991. The Cold War was then officially over.